introduction, I'm Chelsea, and I am currently getting my Master's of Science in Nutrition and Exercise Physiology at Teachers College of Columbia. My sports background, in case you guys are interested, is I did my undergrad at Boston College, and I raced for road cycling there for 2 seasons. And I currently teach indoor cycling at Equinox, so that's a little bit of my athletic background besides the nutrition portion. And
hi guys, I'm Katie White. I am a registered dietitian. I went through the same program that Chelsea went through, and I'm currently getting my PhD in nutrition because I don't really ever want to get a real job. I can just stay in school, I found out. The interest rate changes though with the loans from undergrad. Just so you know. My background has been mainly in weight management. As far as sports nutrition goes, I actually graduated here in 2006 from the Kines program. I did my bachelor's in exercise science, and I played lacrosse. So I know that Missy is no longer here. That was a long, long time ago. But then I went on to Teachers College to do my master's and finishing up my PhD. And currently my work is in something called calorimetry, which is a method of measuring how many calories you expend for a given activity. And we do these in little sealed off rooms. So that might be something fun we could talk about later on down the road to come and visit the lab.
actually, let's just go around the room, and that way we can get some names, and we'll try and remember. So if you could do, I guess, name, maybe year in school, and what position you're playing. Sorry.
I'm Alex Smith. I'm a sophomore. I'm
I'm Julie, and I'm a freshman, and I've been before five. I'm Nikki. I'm a senior. I play forward.
I'm Kelly. I'm a freshman. I'm Emma. I'm a freshman and I'm a guard.
My name's Aisha. I'm a junior and I'm a shooting guard.
My name's Kayla, and I'm a senior. And I play.
Said in a very senior way.
And I'm Dawn.
Grad school, but
Oh, okay.
senior, but red shirt junior, so it's
Gotcha.
Oh wait, my name's Gabby. I'm a freshman and I'm a junior.
I'm Taylor, I'm a junior, and he's on grade 4. I'm Amani Tatum. I am a graduate student.
Ooh.
And I play the guard position, the 1-2.
I'm Allie Bassetti. I coach these Rascals.
Oh.
Yeah.
We haven't met. So.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, great. So, quick icebreaker before we start. Can everyone stand up?
Yeah.
Sorry, make me move around too much. I'm figuring out control.
Okay, those of you who have had breakfast, take a seat.
Julie, you ate breakfast?
I mean, I had lunch.
Get up. You didn't eat breakfast.
There we go.
Breakfast, like, yes, breakfast.
I know
In
she
the
doesn't
morning.
eat breakfast.
Those of you who know how much carbohydrate you've had today, take a seat.
So if you don't, you just stand back up.
Yeah, go
Yeah, you
ahead.
can stand back up if you don't.
How much of you know how much protein you've had in your meals today? Take a seat. Anybody who knows the fat content of their meals so far today? Take a seat. Okay, have a seat.
You guys can all sit down. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're all here together. That's what we're going to be focusing on today. Macronutrients, carbohydrates, protein, fat, how you get them, where they come from, what your meals should look like.
Okay, so we're going to start with the macronutrients.
Yeah.
It's not a smart board.
They don't want a smart board.
Okay.
They want a whiteboard.
Okay. It looked like smart board pen, that's why.
Oh,
Okay, so nutrients, as we break this word down, this is going to tell us something about nutrition, right? That was kind of a cop-out. and this is going to tell us something about the content. So we have macronutrients and micronutrients, but we're going to start with the macronutrients. There are 3 specific types of macronutrients. Macros are carbohydrates, fat, and protein. Now the reason these are called macronutrients are because they provide us with energy. They're large molecules that provide us with energy that come within our food. So, the first one we'll start with is carbohydrates. This is a big buzzword right now, right? People are always talking about high carbohydrate diets, low carbohydrate diets. Carbohydrates are the type of nutrition that provides us with the most energy. We get 4 calories per gram of energy. And the reason why I say this is the macronutrient that provides us with the most energy, it provides us with the most immediate energy. That's the type of energy that's going to get us walking, running, dribbling, shooting, running up and down the court. This is the type that gives us that kind of energy. Quick, but it only lasts us so long. These carbohydrate sources are made up from sugars. And there's all different types of sugars out there. Right? Now, you may have heard about refined carbohydrates versus whole carbohydrates, or complex versus simple. And what does that mean? Because there's so many choices out there of carbohydrates. When you go into the grocery store, the whole middle section of the grocery store is all full of all kinds of different types of carbohydrates. So we have simple, which are mainly our sugars that you think about, table sugars and that kind of way, sweet things. And then we have complex, or in other words, and then we could call them refined. So simple sugars, when we eat those, how many of us have had a Snickers bar or some type of really tasty candy bar and we get an immediate zap of energy from that, right? So what's happening there is that's a simple sugar. Our body immediately recognizes it and tries to use it. Now the problem with something like the Snickers bar, it's a whole lot of sugar at once, right? So with complex or whole carbohydrates, we're talking more about things that have fiber, things that are slower and harder to break down for our bodies. So instead of the response being zoom, it's more of a zoom, and it keeps us a little bit more focused and attentive throughout our day. Because we've all experienced that crash coming off of those sugary items too. So simple sugars don't necessarily have to mean unhealthy, though. I don't like to make foods good or bad and give them a connotation like that. They're just food. They don't have any intent behind them. Simple sugars could also be things like honey, right, to sweeten tea, or to put on different cereals, or fruit. Fruit is a type of simple sugar. Whereas our complex carbohydrates are more of our grains, our whole grains, brown rice. And anything that has any amount of fiber in it is considered a slow-releasing carbohydrate. So instead of thinking of them as good or bad, it's better to think of them as like, what do they do to me, right? So some of them release energy really, really quickly, but too much of it at once. Our body kind of freaks out about that. And those are fast-releasing versus something that's more slow-releasing.
And there's a time and a place for both of those type of carbohydrates in your diet, and there's definitely room for both. But you just want to, and we'll talk about this more later, make sure that you're getting the right amounts of each at the right times.
And just like she said, too many sources of the quick releasing can cause some unwanted health effects. Next one that we'll move on to is protein. So protein also provides us with 4 calories per gram. And again, the calories, that's telling us how much energy we're getting for our buck, right? So protein, what do we normally think of when we hear the word protein? Meat, right? We think of like muscles, you know, putting on size with protein. So protein is mainly involved with structure, building things. Everything that we see in our bodies, our bones, our nails, our hair, all that stuff, that's all protein, right? So one example, when you have an egg that is raw, the egg white, That's all protein in the egg white. When it's raw, what is it? Is it a solid, a liquid, a gas? But it's a liquid, right? An egg white. When you cook it, what happens to it when you add heat to it? It becomes a solid, right? So all of that structure that's within that protein is kind of decoiling, and it changes when we add something to it, like heat. But that's how it works in the body. It builds things. So protein provides us with 4 kilocalories per gram. They're made up not of sugars, but of something called amino acids. And this is where you may have heard this word in sports supplements, the branched chain amino acids or protein powders, things like that. They talk about an amino acid profile. So the reason why that's important, and just like we saw with sugars, we really have 2 different types. We have essential and non-essential, and then we have complete versus incomplete. So proteins are made up of amino acids. We have some that are essential and some that are non-essential. If they're essential, that means we only get them from food. If they're non-essential, that means we make them in our body ourselves. And so this would define whether a protein food is complete or incomplete. If it has all the essentials, it's complete. If it doesn't, and it's got a combo of these, it's incomplete. But you know what? Over time, we've figured out a way to get our essentials, to get complete proteins out of combinations. So even intuitively, we knew before we had all this science, rice and beans is a perfect example of taking 2 incomplete proteins and making them complete. So you can build them. So sometimes when you hear proteins, you immediately think of meat, but you also can get your proteins from some plant sources. And that, we'll talk about that a little bit down the road.
And I think the key with the essential and non-essential is, and all the different amino acids, there's always this push, like especially the branched chain amino acids or like leucine, everyone's going crazy over like leucine, which is actually one of the most common ones commonly found in food, so you really don't need to be taking a supplement on that. The point is to get your protein from a wide variety of sources. So like everyone said, meat, but you can get protein from plant sources as well. And you want to, maybe you like chicken and that's great, and we definitely want to keep eating the chicken, but can we also get protein from beans as well? Can we get that from some lean red meats? Can we get it from maybe some tofu or something like that? And then you're going to get your entire amino acid profile. So it's not just about the grams of protein, but it's about what type of protein is it.
And then last but not least, we have another type of macronutrient known as fat. And fat has gotten such a bad reputation over the years, right? That's a whole other lecture. But fat provides us with the most energy per gram of weight of food. So for each